Greetings to everybody and welcome to our fifth webinar. The third season of Smart Talks with Jovan program entitled Smart Metering, the Next Step, discussed what should be done to make the best use of smart metering that will bring us closer to the implementation of smart cities. Is smart energy management the next step towards smart city? We are witnessing that more and more households have solar panels on their roofs and becoming distributed energy producers. There is also increased use of electric vehicles and thus electric vehicle chargers in households. What happens if the distribution network is overloaded or there is excessive input of energy to the network from distributed energy sources? We will try to address these problems during the webinar and discuss the topics of energy production and consumption management using smart metering and smart home systems, as well as legislation, regulation, and standardization in this field. So please welcome our guests, Mr. Boris Turha, Mr. Tomaz Dostal, and Mr. Istvan Papp. Boris is Senior Development Engineer in the Technological Development Department at Elektro Ljubljana. Tomaz is a member of the Task Force Next Generation Smart Metering within ESMIG and head of the Strategic Engineering Management team at Iskraemeco. And Istvan is professor at the Faculty of Technical Sciences at University of Novi and VP Engineering at OBLO. Thank you for joining us today. I will now start with questions for our guests, and I would like to encourage the audience to ask questions in this webinar in the chat section of the Zoom. I mentioned some of the problems that DCOs are facing nowadays in the introduction. Energy demand is increasing since there are more and more electric vehicles and EV chargers in the street. There is also a problem with a surplus of energy from solar and wind power plants. In order to balance the distribution network, DSOs need to control the energy consumption and production in some way. So question is it better for distribution companies to limit the consumer energy consumption instead of directly managing the household devices? Boris, Elektro Ljubljana did few pilots to manage energy consumption at consumer. So please, first, I would like you first to ask you to give us your opinion on this question. Please unmute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So let me start with, in the past, the power plants regulated the production of energy according to consumption. But nowadays, because of the ability of PVs and windmills, consumption must adapt. Now, since, like in Slovenia, most of PVs are connected to distribution grid, they increase the voltage. DSO could solve it by investing in new transformers and lines, but this means that the net tariffs for all customers must rise. But we don't want this. And so we try, and the other solution is that we sign as DSO, sign contracts for flexibility with customers and aggregators. And if distribution grid is overloaded, flexibility providers have to lower consumption. In case of increased voltage, prosumers with photovoltaic have to decrease their power or increase the consumption. Now, the flexibility providers get paid by distribution company. Now, as how is flexibility managed? This depends on the customers. We at Elektro Ljubljana, we establish a flexibility platform, which is integrated into existing uniform portal for metering data. The platform enables customers. First step is to register their flexibility, or they can authorize an aggregator to apply on a flexibility tender. And the second step is, if there is an actual need of flexibility, we, DSO, publish a tender, and flexibility providers compete with each other through daily auctions. Just next week, we intend to publish a new flexibility tender for winter.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your answer. Tomaz, do you have to add?
Yes. So yeah, maybe the main question was actually, should companies, distribution companies, limit the consumption or production, or just or control directly the devices? I'd say no. Distribution companies should not be able to directly control the devices in the house. So it's several reasons. Probably one is we have this regulated and unregulated world. So regulated is on the DSO side heavily, so it's difficult. And behind the meter, the consumer is kind of free world. So I don't think that consumers themselves will be really willing that somebody external, which is somehow also considered as bad guy, control the devices directly. So somehow, I guess that interface between the regulated world and unregulated world should be defined. A smart meter could be a very good device for doing that. Provide some limitations, some information what should be these limits, and then the home energy management system will comply to that. And behind you, the consumer has a contract with flexibility operator, whatever, and must comply to this demand for flexibility. Otherwise, he's contractually obliged to do that. So yeah, I guess let's leave the device management to the consumer, to the owner, and let's have some information from the DSO. What should I do, to comply with the situation in the grid? And yeah, that's how I see it, right?
Okay, thank you. Istvan, what is your opinion?
First of all, Jovan, thanks for inviting us for this webinar. And I'm quite sure that it will be useful and everybody will learn and hear something new. So it's a great initiative. Going back to the question, so I don't think that it is realistic to limit the energy consumption. So what as you said, we are seeing growth in energy demand and usage. My belief, maybe that's a bit biased with my background, I believe that we need to use what we have as of today more efficient way. I mean, there about the energy sources, the production, the existing distribution grid, and also to optimize the usage in the home. And I totally agree with, I think Tomaz said that it's not realistic, the utility company to control specific devices in the home. And I guess we will get back to that later on. What I believe that through this digitalization and this transformation, which is inevitable in the energy market, I think the users should be more like partners in this ecosystem, not just buyers. So we see some different roles. We have those consumers and so on. So I don't think that from, I won't say today, maybe even yesterday, the users are not clearly cannot be labeled as buyers of the energy. They need to be a cooperative partner in this system to be able to optimize the overall usage. And I think this will get to everybody's benefits. The user will have certain gains in terms of reduction of cost. On the other hand, I guess the other partners will be in position to plan to evolve the energy system in a more optimal way, avoid some over dimensioning, and make maintenance, installation, and development easier.
Okay. Okay, and Istvan, I would like to ask you to proceed with your answer on next question. Is it necessary for a home energy management system to be autonomous in its operation in order for the homeowner to have the maximum benefit from its use, or homeowner will have control? What is your experience, because you come from company that deals with smart home systems?
The short answer is yes. I do believe that that level of autonomy is required, and I will share some thoughts on that. So first of all, of course, the optimal way would be if we could be able to optimize everything, but that's, I would say, that's cannot be done. It would be a too big system to optimize. We have seen a lot of different or a lot of variety in this market. There are some geopolitical, business, or technical limitations why we cannot optimize the entire system. And also we have some non-predictable events, weather, incidents, people. So what I see is that this is a system that is changing all the time. So I don't think that the global optimization can be done, but the answer could be decentralization of this energy management. This would allow us to get a manageable system, which might be suboptimal, but it should give good enough results. So if you look at the system top down, starting from the producers, the distribution companies, up to the smart meter or the energy meter at the home, I think the roles and the business and the technology is quite well defined. But after the smart meter, things are becoming a bit messy, in a sense that every household is different. Some households may have PVs or batteries or electric cars, and yet different people live in different households having different habits. So it will be quite hard to deal with all those different aspects of energy consumption. So therefore, I believe that this can be covered well with an autonomous home energy management system, which wouldn't consider only top-level statistical data, but it would consider also the personal preferences or personal habits of the household. So this might not be limited to households. It can cover also bigger facilities. But anyhow, I believe that home energy management system should be autonomous, but it should also operate in sync with the rest of the energy system.
Okay. Okay, Boris.
Well, I totally agree with Istvan. Generally, it should be autonomous because it is its purpose. But maybe it depends on the appliances. Like if you start charging the electric vehicle and you are in a rush and you have to fill in from next 2 hours, you don't want to this don't allow you to charge the car. So yeah, it depends on the appliances that HEMS controls.
Okay, interesting example. Tomaz.
Yeah, so my question when I've seen this question was autonomous in what perspective? What does it mean? Works independently, isolated from the world, or how? What was
autonomous in sense it will be completely autonomous, or homeowner will have a possibility to change the decisions of the system?
Yeah, okay, this is this. So first of all, autonomous means it still must be connected somehow to the smart grid. Again, I would say smart meter is a good gateway to connect two worlds between. But at the end, autonomous, so we can talk about artificial intelligence and this kind of stuff, but in the end, you have people behind. And as Istvan said before, it's also changing world. It's a dynamic world, totally unpredictable world. So, and without any influence of user or the homeowner, this cannot work, because user knows right now I'm okay with the temperature in the house 2 degrees lower than I want it to be, and that I want to influence this somehow. So user, the consumer, must have an influence of the autonomous operation. Could be a permutation if you wish. Otherwise, you want to automate this stuff so that user does not have to, reply to the request of the DSO. Look, you need to reduce this from today, this hour to this hour. This is too complicated. People will not do that. So in that sense, should be autonomous, getting information from the smart grid somehow, and then operate, reduces the charging power, lower the temperature in the room when applicable. I know this kind of stuff, starting to heat some water, charging something else, reduce the power generation from the PV. All this kind of stuff should be totally autonomous, automatic, but should be able to be influenced by the consumer. So yeah, and that way. So no, also a lot. I've been on a couple of European projects doing with demand response, and they were all integrating artificial intelligence, some super duper models about this, and all this was very, very volatile. I mean, there was a little bit of change in the system. Maybe somebody bought just a new vehicle which has different charging characteristic, and the model failed. So until now, interaction between the user and the HEMS system is required.
Yes, but the point is how to find the balance between these two controls, because homeowner, the question is, will homeowner take care about the limit, take care about flexibility, if he wants in that moment to charge his car, but maybe.
But it's all about the capability, the flexibility capability of some building or something. So if some homeowner has a lot of, let's say, flexible devices on generation, storage, and consumption side, then in that case, the homeowner has a lot of flexibility to do that. For example, as Boris said before, somebody wants to dry off in 30 minutes. It means that even though now its power consumption is on the limit which is allowed, he still needs to charge the car. Otherwise, what he will do is he will just stay home. And the hands should be able to transfer the power from heating, temperature, heat pumps, whatever, water heater to the charging. And then when the car is charged, or the car drives off, whatever, the power will go back to the other consumption within the house. And this kind of autonomy, I think it's possible even today. It's not a rocket science. We also have actually a solution to do that. It's doable without a lot of intelligence and very big investment. So this can be done within certain limits, of course.
Yes. Okay, the next question is related with that, because the question is, what is the biggest motivator for customers to give their flexibility to DCOs and suppliers to manage it? Why the customer will give opportunity to DCOs to limit his consumption? So Tomaz, maybe you can continue.
Okay, thanks. What I see is actually two main motivators. The first one will be, of course, money. So I will be ready to give my flexibility for the DSO usage if I have a benefit out of this. And now with this new tariff scheme in Slovenia, which is being in place, or it's getting in place, then the limits are set very low. So I would be really interested on today that I really reduce my energy fee, especially the guys having all this electrical heating, all this, their monthly bill is pretty high. So they will be ready to do the flexibility in that way. And the second is to avoid some limitations or permits. For example, today, if people are applying for installation of new photovoltaic in the system where there are few photovoltaic already installed, they don't give a permit to install, or they have very limited export power. So if you have a flexibility also on generation, you can overcome this limitation, because if you are flexible, and everybody actually is flexible, then you can have a temporary permit to export maybe 10 kilowatts instead of 1 kilowatt, but you should be able, you should be able to reduce your generation to what I tell you to do, because I need in that case distribution. I need to maintain my grid within the operating condition. I don't want to over voltage. I don't want to overburn the transformer, whatever, right? So that's another example. Was also in Ljubljana somewhere. There was a guy who wanted to put 3 or 4 EV chargers within the house, and that would mean almost 100 kilowatt connection power. It was clearly denied by the DSO because they cannot provide this power capacity. If he would be flexible on the charging power, I guess it would be simple, because Elektro Ljubljana will tell him, look, guys, you can only do 25 kilowatts. And whatever you do in behind, it's your problem. You just cannot exceed that limit which we set to you, because we have to. We have no other options. We cannot change all the cables because you have this fancy idea to have five electric cars inside. So to me, these are two motivators to do the flexibility.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for this interesting example. Boris, will you add something?
Well, like Tomaz said, the biggest motivation is financial benefits. But as DSO, we see the business case for aggregators that will use consumers' flexibility, not only for us, but only for TSO and for themselves, for balancing their portfolio. The key is to achieve multiplication of service offered to several buyers of flexibility. That's my vision of it. Yeah.
Okay. Istvan, what is your answer on this question?
Yeah, so cost reduction is certainly a motivator for everyone. Although throughout some projects we have seen different limits, so it's always about some trade-off. There is some gain, some loss, and depending on the ratio, people will either accept it or not. And that what we have seen, that's quite region dependent, from country, from mindset, or even between different households. So it's again, it's a quite personal thing. So for example, a gain could be this reduction in cost, for sure, but also some eco-consciousness that can be also drivers of some people. On the other hand, the loss is, for example, if you, as Tomaz said, if you cannot get a permit, or if you lose some of your comfort or some of your flexibilities. So if there is no loss in terms of that, of course, any gain is great. So even a small reduction in energy consumption or cost or carbon footprint, it's great. But if you have some loss of flexibility and comfort, then we have seen that the threshold for the gain is much higher. The savings should be much more people to accept it if they need to give away something which is affecting their lives. So what I believe is that with a home energy management system, which can learn the habits of people, the loss can be really minimized, and then the gain and the acceptance will be much more significant to the users. And if you put it on a great or a big scale, then it really counts. What I saw is that today the solutions existing there are using some really conservative strategies minimize the loss of comfort for people and providing some gain, but also I believe that there is much more potential in that. On the other side, we conducted some pilot projects where we allowed remote control of ACs of people to reduce the energy usage. But we have seen that people quite often change the temperature or the settings, in an override fashion, because we perceive that as the indication that their comfort was reduced to a certain extent. And I think this is something that's really important, and we still on the road to learn more about that. And I believe that this is the place where some sophisticated solutions can be used or need to be used in order to have something or to develop something that will be widely accepted by the market. Another thing that came to my mind during listening to the colleagues is that the sensitivity about data, it's increasing. So people are more sensitive in sharing their data, and that would be another argument towards the autonomous home energy management system, where, for example, a data leak might be also considered as a loss or a risk. And I feel that this is also an aspect that really needs to be taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we
But
heard.
Jovan, can I just reply to this
Yes.
sensitivity of data? That's why what we were thinking about this connection between the smart grid and the smart house, for example, is that data coming out of the house is data generated in the house stays in the house. So autonomous in that way. That only the home energy management system gets the information from the outside and does not really give it back, not beyond what is now used in the smart metering system, because utilities, or even today, they have load profiles on 50 minutes, and this can be kept because probably that was also decided by the, how it's called, the office which is taking care about the GDPR, so security. This is acceptable, and we don't need to go beyond that. And I guess for utilities, this is enough. Also, I said about the contract. So if I want to offer flexibility and utility requires from me some flexibility, I need to prove that this flexibility has been fulfilled. Otherwise, I can sign the contract with Elektro Ljubljana and I will have €50 discount, but then I will not reply to the flexibility request. This insurance for the utility must be insured as well. So that's why some data from the consumer must be provided back to the utility just to justify or verify everything went okay. But this probably is what is today. This 15 minutes profile should be enough for satisfying all these use cases.
Okay.
Jovan, can I
Yes,
just follow up?
Please.
Yeah, so I agree with that, and I think that the smart meter is a really great junction point between the smart home and the home energy management system and the energy system, because I would say it certifies, everybody believes it, and it's just at the border of the two systems. So from that point on, I think it can be really used as a reference point for these legal and contractual issues. On the other hand, I think that the autonomous home energy management system should get from the grid the target. So I guess the energy system will have different strategies. At some point, the strategy could be use the energy to full extent. Then it can be asked, to reduce your energy consumption to, I don't know, 3 kilowatt hours and so on. and from the grid to the smart home, I believe that level of information or goals should be exchanged. And in the opposite direction, I think that the consumption profile, some kind of prediction at 15 minutes and the smart meter, that should be sufficient. And that approach, we believe it's good enough people not to be worried about the data leakage or giving away personal information.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Nice examples. And so we heard about applications, problems and advantages of implementation of home energy management systems. We are aware that we are at the beginning. And the question is, are the advantages offered by home energy management systems sufficient to serve as the primary impulse for its greater implementation? Or do we need something extra for that? Please, Boris, would you give us your opinion?
Well, I don't know, maybe homeowners have to be asked this question. I think that for them is sufficient. Maybe we just have to ask question how HEMS get signal from, I don't know, from DSO to reduce energy consumption because of overload in the grid. Well, we thought about it when we established our flexibility platform, and we currently have 3 ways to send requests to homeowners. One is the relay output on a smart meter, but the consumer has to make physical connection to its HEMS, so it's not very practical. But it's a simple on-off activation signal. Now for advanced users, you can send MQTT requests to their HEMS. And the third way, which is a manual way, we just send an email and SMS message 15 minutes before activation, and then the customer inputs the request to its HEMS application to turn off some device or to do something. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Tomaz.
Well, so the question is, are advantages enough? I guess the state of the art on the HEMS does not allow this yet. If you can, I see this a big problem with photovoltaic installation right now in Slovenia, because all the new people are getting declined the requests or very limited export power. So for them, I guess that would be, if there would be a technical solution to overcome this, and the utilities or the legislation will allow for this, that would be a good motivation to do that. Finance-wise, I'm not sure we are there yet. It's still too little benefits. So I know what I think it's, we are still looking for this killer app, which will really makes this home energy management system very, very attractive to the people. Maybe it's behind the corner, or there's something coming up, but I don't see it right now that this is really heavily implemented.
Okay, Istvan.
Yeah, from the, since we are smart technology providers, of course, we are not happy with the I would say the speed of adoption of HEMS. We would like to be faster. It is moving on a slow pace. Everybody is talking about it. Everybody sees the potential. But yeah, I agree, the killer app is not there. So we saw some specific solutions, especially in Scandinavian countries, but they are quite narrow, and they're not exploiting the full potential or great potential of this solution. So yes, I would like to see some additional push to these camps. And I believe that some level of standardization and some legislation plus incentives could help the greater implementation by providing a stable market where more companies could enter and compete, and that would for sure push the development. And on the other hand, I think it would be great to have some projects to work with different players to understand different aspects in this quest for the killer app. So not sure what to add on top. As of today, we have first of all we have kind of two parallel systems. So one is the data flow through the energy meter from the home to the energy company, and all the other connection is kind of out of band, and in our case it is run through this smart home solution. But again, this is our solution. It's not something that of course our competitors will adopt. So until that is consolidated, I think it will be hard because the market will be fragmented. So yes, a push could be through the standardization and incentives.
Okay, we are witnessing that standardization in other fields push and make faster implementation of systems. But how to achieve standardization, how to encourage collaboration of different companies in this field to achieve the standardization in home energy management systems. So maybe Istvan, you can continue because you mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, I will make a parallel with quite new standard called Matter, pushed by the big guys. So I think some of the things could be copy pasted from them, because it is a really big consortium. It's Google, Amazon, Samsung, Apple, everybody's there. It is a consumer protocol. So in that sense, I would say it's not really applicable to the energy system. But I think these guys realize that they need to create a critical mass of really different people to get this on board. So of course, as every standardization, it's not an easy thing to push through, but they pull together, the device vendors, the service providers, different players from the market where Matter expect to be used. I think the same thing should be done in this domain. One of the takeaways from some research projects is that everybody is approaching the problem from their aspect. So if you look at the distribution companies, they have their own view on things, they have their own problems. Like, for example, the IoT technology providers, they look at the problem through the lens of technology, while again, I can say us as academic people as well, you look through the algorithms and nobody has the full picture. So in some cases, it was an eye-opener for me that, a technologically not complex issue was seen by the distributor as a big issue. And while the reasons behind, they're not technical, but for example, business dependent or some other dependency was there, which was not perceived or seen by us. So the first step, what I think should be to get together different people, because every standard is a long-lasting thing, to understand and to define a platform which fulfills the needs today. But also, I think we must not think about today. We need to think about 5 or 10 years ahead, try to anticipate what will come, and create a standard that can evolve, because this is something we see that through this digitalization, things are evolving quite quickly, and I think this is something that will be a bit new to the traditional energy companies who are not used to that pace of technology evolution. Anyhow, I think this partnering up is a key. I see the research projects as a vehicle to that. And of course, then the standards will come. And if there is a critical mass behind that, I think this will be a key to success.
Okay, thank you, Istvan. Boris, maybe this question is more for the vendors, but if you have to add something.
Yeah, I will add our DSO point of view. Because I think that the European Union or even DSO among themselves should determine the protocols which we send activation requests. And as soon as we determine protocols, manufacturers will adapt their hardware to enable them. That's why we use MQTT, which is quite general protocol for sending activation requests. Hence, just have to establish a secure connection to our entry point and subscribe to correct topic. Maybe in the future, we will send some tokenized requests to HEMS. That's our point of view.
Okay. Tomaz, what is your answer? You have a big experience, and maybe you can give any parallel with the standardization in smart metering.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. So standards are good. So ETSI, for example, is a good example of a very good standard, and there it works. And then IETF, so for internet, it's also a good representative of when the standardization really boosts the business. But we also have very unsuccessful trials of standardization where something has been standardized. For example, Connect, I don't see it anywhere. Something has been standardized and then it's not used. I guess the main and the only driver is business need. And when the business need is there, then it will be also a standard. Also, for smart home, I've seen like 5 to 10 different attempts to standardize the protocols, and nothing happened until today. Meta is now maybe getting something, but still. So I'm not sure that really standardization is the only way to boost the business. So DLMS, for example, it's a standardization organization. It is used everywhere in the smart metering bit. We are now also working on the standardized interfaces for the smart house, exactly for these particular energy management systems. It can work, but besides the energy industry, DLMS is not used somehow for several reasons. So how to do that? So I say standardization is one way. Another way is like open source initiative. I'm now playing with the Home Assistant, if somebody is aware of it. So Home Assistant is an open source platform for home management. And I've seen that this Home Assistant already integrates Dutch meters directly, so they can connect to this P1 interface. Has there, and then they can integrate charging station. They integrate already a PVs, and that's an alternative. Actually, you don't have any really standardized protocol, but this open source community is making a way to integrate different protocols into one single solution, and that might even work better in that situation. Maybe this is an alternative way to do the standardization. The problem of standardization is also, especially if you go to Senelec, this kind of stuff, it takes so long. I mean, 2 to 3 years is not a long time to have something out. It's really too slow. And if tomorrow is coming a killing app, what can we do? Wait 3 years for some protocol somebody will invent and go through all these standardization procedures? or do just something and find Modbus TCP, which works quite fine. As a common denominator, maybe, and you can exchange the data and have a home assistant to glue all these different devices. I guess these are two different approaches to the same problem. And the question was also how to motivate different companies to work together if they have business interest. Very simple. So we've been talking with a few HVAC manufacturer in Slovenia and globally and abroad. And we had a good idea. We really believe, oh, this is super technology. Let's make it. But at the end, there was no business interest because, okay, we will do that. Then what? How can we sell this? And yeah, without business interest, nothing will happen.
Okay. Okay, then we can ask the next question. We discussed about standardization, and if it is not enough, should the European Union, through its member states, provide some incentives to interested parties in order to more quickly engage the implementation of energy management and home energy management systems? Maybe, Tomaz, you can continue.
Yeah. Probably yes, at the end of the day, probably if you want to have something, it should be pushed. Just in May, I guess, Europe accepted EE bus as official standard for the energy management in houses. Will it fly or not? I don't know. But somehow, if Europe wants to push this green transition, going everything electrical, somehow they will have to initiate this. And yeah, we have standardization organizations within EU like Senelec and DLMS course, and we also have organizational ESMIG or the EDSO, this kind of stuff, who can help working on that. Will it succeed or not? Hard to tell for me.
Okay, because the smart metering systems have achieved the mass implementation after initiative of European Union and third energy package.
Yeah, exactly. But it's much simpler ecosystem, if you ask me. So smart metering utilities, two stakeholders of the system. On one side, it's smart metering manufacturer, this is us, and on the other side are utilities as a DSO, as Elektro Ljubljana, and that fly easily. But you know, even in DLMS, which is now really a good standard and widely accepted globally, even US is now entering the DLMS world. But even there, we have different dialects which do not talk to each other completely transparently. Some part of it is common to everybody, but some part of it it's specific to the utility, even not even to the country. So yeah, even that it's a good example, but not completely good example. So the really good example is MID, but that is a legislation directive. This one is good, right?
Yes. Okay, Boris, what is your opinion on this topic?
Well, incentives are always appreciated, the free money. But we must keep in mind that the purpose of HEMS is to make life simple for customers. Use for third parties like DSO is a secondary importance, and as DSO, we're afraid that incentives won't solve all our problems. For instance, if HEMS buys customers that are connected to unproblematic grid where we don't have overloads and over voltage, DSO won't need to connect to these schemes which buyer gets inserted. So from our point of view, in this case, this insertive is a waste of money. But like I said, this is a DSO point of view, and it's a secondary importance for HEMS.
Okay, thank you, Boris. Istvan?
I think that looking through the perspective of business, that having some interest to enter this market is a key thing. So as I mentioned, I see two things that is needed, to have through the standard something that is predictable, and then to not to offer some part solution. And I think first of all, think about the business models between the DSO and the end users up to the smart meter, because as of today, some DSOs have the need to manage or to set strategic goals to the customer, some don't. So that relationship needs to be somehow regulated and on a mutual benefit, of course. And that's one part, and the other part is the household itself. So to certain extent, with the HEMS, you can play with the energy consumption in the home, and I expect that with the development of the battery technology, which is heavily pushed by the electric vehicle industry, I think the flexibility will growing and growing, and by the HEMS, the homeowner can exploit this or to have some savings in combination with PVs. But in order to be of something bigger, I think the relation between the HEMS and the grid needs to be standardized. So the grid doesn't want to talk to one HEMS in one way and in a different way to a different type of HEMS. That needs to be unique. Otherwise, it will lose the interest of the DSO because they traditionally don't want to get into maintaining different versions of protocol. And as of until now, that was pushed to the side of HEMS. But again, in order to create a market, that needs to be standardized. And I'm going back to the projects again. I think we do not have the full extent of information and decisions how to make that, how to kick off this standardization to be widely accepted. And even then, when that happens, both the standards and the market is there, I think for this initial push, some intense incentives must be offered to all the parties. And I guess the only body who can do that is either European Union or governments in order to kick it off. And once it rolls, then it has a good chance to be successful. Anyhow, we are looking forward. As I said, in the past 1.5 to 2 years, we had plenty of different discussions. People or companies are really willing to discuss. It's somehow more like a preparation for the future, but so far, really only few of them were put some money on the table to develop some POCs, and I know only very few of them who has some solution in production.
Okay, Istvan, thank you. I think that we have some time. I would like to ask audience to encourage if anyone have any questions or want to say, discuss anything. Okay, I think that we don't have any feedback from that side. Okay, so we come to the end of discussion, and if anyone from the guest speakers do not have to add anything, I can give a little conclusion. I think that we have had an excellent topic to discuss today. it seems that home energy management systems can help TCOs in distribution network balancing, but customers need to be motivated stronger to manage energy in households. It appears that additional initiative is needed to accelerate the implementation of home energy management systems. And instead of conclusion, here is a question: should the EU bring new initiatives in which it would push the implementation of home energy management systems? Thanks to Mr. Papp, Mr. Turha, and Mr. Dostal. And thank you to the audience, and let's shape the future together.